A brand new life that any of us could seek begins in our mind first. And that is the quote of the day. Welcome back to the Quote of the Day show. I'm your host, Sean Croxton of SeanCroxton.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's featured speaker is Michael Wickett. And Michael's talking about a topic that's been addressed over and over and over again on this podcast. But I think it's a topic that needs to be repeated over and over and over again. We need reminders of this all of the time. And it's the fact that we are the creators of our own lives, and that when we get a vision and we stick to that vision, we don't have to worry about the details. Just like the universe or whatever it is just kind of works the details out as long as we focus on that vision. And I wrote about this in my ebook. It's a free ebook, by the way, called The 1%er's Mind, 7 Steps to Beating Fear, Doubt, and Indecision, and How to Get Everything You Want. That's over on my website at SeanCroxton.com. But it's a topic I love, I hold near and dear because I really think it's a life changer. And so here's Michael, and I'm going to catch you on the other side.
A brand new life that any of us could seek begins in our mind first. It does not begin out there in a different state, in a different job, in another relationship. As an example, how many of you would agree that there was a time when electric lights did not exist in physical form? How many of you agree with that statement? Yes. Of course. But before electric lights existed in physical form, they first existed in somebody's mind. How many of you would agree there was a time when wooden podiums did not exist in physical form? Of course. But before wooden podiums ever existed in physical form, they first existed in somebody's mind. How many of you would agree there was a time when microphones did not exist in physical form? Certainly. But before they ever existed in physical form, they first existed in somebody's mind. You've got it. How many of you would agree there was a time when our present circumstances didn't exist the way they are? But before they existed in their present form, they first existed in somebody's mind. And so everything begins in mind. And so if we want to change our life, we get a new vision tonight, today, of where we want to go. And we let that vision move us forward almost effortlessly because there is no need to struggle. Let me share with you some examples of men and women who had a vision and how life corresponded to their vision and brought them all of the things necessary to accomplish the vision. There was a young man named Pete Siebert, and he had a singular vision for his life, and that was to own a ski resort. He became a skier. Then he became a ski racer. Then he enrolled in a Swiss hotel school to learn about running a hotel. Then he became the manager of a ski area, all the while with the vision of having a ski area. And a friend of his named Earl Eaton, who was a prospector, came to him one day and suggested that he had an area that would be ideal for a ski area. It was a huge undeveloped area that would take millions of dollars to develop, which Pete Siebert did not have, but he had the, everybody begins with a V. Vision. But you see, a vision attracts the revenue, the people, everything you need to make it happen. So back about 1961, they got 100 investors together to set that ski area into motion. It opened on December the 15th, 1962. The name that it had then is the same name that it has today. It's called Vail. There's no future time in the world. It's not going to be a better year because it's a new year. It's going to be a better year because we got a new vision. Life is not complicated. What you repeatedly see in your mind, you almost assuredly end up seeing in your life. I was inspired to read about a beautiful lady named Kathy Colby, who 2.5 years ago was the Arizona Small Business Person of the Year. She's the president of 3 companies, including one called Resources for the Gifted Incorporated. She is the world's largest publisher of educational material for gifted children. She's been written about in Time Magazine, Life, U.S. News and World Report, Family Circle, and Money Magazine. They say that she's an entrepreneur who's built a business empire that does $3.5 million a year. Kathy Colby cannot read in front of a group. She's farsighted in one eye and nearsighted in another. When Kathy Colby was a child, she could barely read, write, or tie her shoes because she was born 45 years ago with dyslexia. She could have used that as an excuse, right? How many of you have something in your past you could easily use as an excuse for failure and struggle? but rather she had a vision of a life that was fulfilling and rewarding, and the title of the article about her was called Kathy Kolbe, An Uncommon Vision. You see, if you have a common vision to just get by and have life be an up and down experience, guess what you get? Remember, the world in which we live is neutral. It just conforms to our vision and our feelings. As an example, if somebody gets a vision of life where they say, I'm always going to struggle, do you know what life says? Yes, that's right. And if somebody gets a vision of life that said relationships are really a challenge, life says, yes, that's right. And if somebody gets a vision of life that says, I'm very shy and I'll never get along in the world, what does life say? Yes. And if somebody gets a vision that says, I'll be rich, what does life say? Yes. Life on this planet is a neutral experience. We get the vision, life says yes. It doesn't care what we select. Do you see why if you want to have a new life, you've got to get a new vision? Do you know what happens if you don't get a new vision? You get more of what you've got. How many of you would rather not go through that? Oh. See, one of the beautiful things about life is the mind is so powerful that when you get a vision, you don't have to know how, you don't have to plan, you don't have to figure it out, you don't have to worry about details. You get the vision and life handles the details. Or as my beautiful friend Arnold Patton would say, the universe handles all the details when you get the vision. So I want you to think tonight about a new vision of a lovely, happy, joyful life experience once and for all. My friends, there's no virtue in struggle. You're not going to get a high place in heaven if you suffer. Back in 1865, there was a man named William Booth who became concerned about the urban poor in England. And he went into London's East End that were slums in those days. And he began to minister to the poor and encourage them and support them and collect food for them. And one day he got a vision that he would make it his life's work to care for the poor and the underprivileged. And he began to ask for and elicit the support and response of other people. And you and I know that when you've got a vision, it attracts all the people and the events and everything necessary to fulfill the vision. So people began to respond. And they began to set up missions where they would take care of poor, underprivileged people. And the vision spread to the United States in 1880. It then spread to India, Australia, South America, Pakistan, and Europe. That vision has become the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army during World War II was instrumental in beginning the USO. Did you know that today, as I speak, the Salvation Army is rehabilitating drug addicts and alcoholics somewhere in America, sheltering them and caring for them? 12,000 people. This past year on 3 occasions, I had an opportunity to be with the people at the Salvation Army locations in Detroit and the suburbs. And I was absolutely overwhelmed with the dedication and the love of those people. The work they are doing is wonderful. And when I was down at some of those Salvation Army locations, I saw men and women who a year or two ago were in the gutter of life, crawling through the garbage looking for a bottle of beer to get another sip, or so badly on drugs they didn't think they'd ever make it again. I saw them healthy and happy and radiant and vibrant, assisting in the program to help other people rehabilitate themselves. And all of that good came from the vision of one man. You can do anything you want if you'll get an uncommon vision and nourish the vision with feeling and action.
All right, that was Michael Wickett with a message that you're going to hear over and over and over and over again by different speakers on this podcast because it's so hugely important. And that comes from Michael's audio program. It's all within your reach, available on audible.com, nightingale.com, as well as the Nightingale Conant Insiders app. That is it for me. Please rate and review the podcast on iTunes. I really, really appreciate it. And subscribe as well. And I will see you tomorrow with our Finance Friday episode of the Quote of the Day Show.